Hello, dear friends. My name is Sofya Dorinskaya. I am a psychiatrist, director of the Center for Medical Information and the School of Mental Health. Since we are talking about nutritional deficiencies, and in our center we conduct a test for nutritional deficiencies, the question often arises of how to protect a child from various vitamin deficiencies. And, in general, what preventive measures should parents take to have a healthy child and ensure their child develops healthily? It should be noted that hypo and avitaminosis can be congenital. This happens when a child is born to a mother who already has hypo or avitaminosis. And here, of course, what essentially needs to be done is to address and fully eliminate your hypo and avitaminosis vitamin deficiencies well before you make the important decision to become pregnant. I also want to emphasize once again, especially for women, that nutrition is extremely important. Veganism and various restrictive diets can lead to deficiencies. If you are not yet a mother but are planning to have a child in the future, you must clearly understand the fact that these restrictive deficiency diets will have a very negative and lasting impact on your child's health in the long run. I am currently giving a detailed lecture about how various external factors, which for a physically healthy and properly developed person, these external factors can truly influence us, which he can successfully manage and cope with, and his body will naturally resolve the underlying problem. But these various external environmental factors can eventually develop into congenital or endogenous issues for the child. If the mother suffers from a severe deficiency of essential vitamins, a chronic lack of vitamin intake, or a documented medical history involving various types of restrictive fasting, then this poses a major risk that the child will be born underdeveloped. This is a major risk that even if a child is born, formally speaking, healthy, he will lag behind in development. That is, the rate of growth, the development of organs, systems, and intellect will be slowed down, simply because, roughly speaking, the child did not get enough at the very start. Nutrients. So this is my sincere wish to all future mothers. Eliminate your vitamin deficiencies before you decide to get pregnant, and eat well. Eat well for a long time, because you should not have dystrophy of your organs and tissues. You should not have a deficiency in the mass of your organs and tissues, the mass of your organs, and so on. Alright, so now we have a child born. Let's take a look today at one of the essential nutrients, nicotinic acid. This is a very important nutrient on which the child's psychophysical development depends, as well as the functioning of the gastrointestinal tract. In what specific ways does a developing infant obtain essential nicotinic acid nutrients during the process of breastfeeding to support healthy growth? The child gets it from the milk. Therefore, the mother must have enough nicotinic acid in her milk so that the child receives the necessary amount of nutrients during each feeding. So what should there be? The mother should eat. Here, I have drawn a table for you. A mother must definitely eat meat, fish, liver, and kidneys. The meat component is essential. Of course, plant-based components should also be included as a supplement to the diet. And nicotinic acid is found in mushrooms, peas, lentils, beans, honey, and tomatoes. In dried figs and dates as well, nicotinic acid is also present in the liquid part of milk. But let's go in order. A mother must definitely eat meat, fish, liver, and kidneys. And for example, the absolutely most essential and highly sought after meat that a mother or any individual who is currently attempting to address a nicotinic acid deficiency ought to consider incorporating into their diet is organ meat, specifically liver. So, it has been shown in experiments that if a woman eats 500 grams of fried liver in doses, about 200 grams first, then 300 grams for example. She eats 200 grams of fried liver in the morning, and then around lunchtime, she eats 300 grams of fried liver. So the level of nicotinic acid in her milk increases by 1.5 to 2 times. And it decreases gradually over the course of 1 or 2 days, depending on how much liver she ate. So please keep this in mind. Fried liver should be included in your diet. Next, this is very important. Nicotinic acid. When you boil meat, it goes into the broth. And most likely, there is a suggestion that the healing properties of strong broth are precisely due to the presence of nicotinic acid. That is why strong meat broth is recommended for people weakened after illness to help them recover, and in fact also during illness. It is very beneficial to drink it when a person, can't eat, has no desire to eat, has no appetite. So just know that nicotinic acid passes into the broth. And I know that nowadays there is, a trend, you could say, to pour out the broth and then boil the meat again. They justify this with various, ideas. But the truth is that, no matter how you justify it, nutrients, including nicotinic acid, end up in the broth. If you pour it out, then basically the next broth is already practically empty. So what we need is broth, a rich broth, specifically from the first boiling. For older children who are already eating on their own, in addition to these foods, you introduce complementary foods. Pediatricians explain how to introduce complementary feeding. Of course, liver is also important. But also, as I already mentioned, they can be given dried figs and dates. And in fact, all of this according to the list. Once again, I want to point out that corn contains an antivitamin K for nicotinic acid. Therefore, if you suspect a deficiency of nicotinic acid, or you already know for sure that there is a deficiency in your child or in yourself, then please limit foods that contain either cornmeal or are made from corn and so on. So it's better to remove these products because, as you understand, the antivitamin will neutralize the nicotinic acid. As for milk, nicotinic acid is found in the liquid part of milk. Therefore, if you make cottage cheese yourself, the nicotinic acid remains in the whey. Therefore, you should also find a way to use this whey. You can drink it, some people mix it with sugar, you can add it to dough, and so on. Just keep in mind that when you make cottage cheese and the whey drains off, the nicotinic acid goes into the whey as well. If you churn butter yourself, then the resulting buttermilk, this is the liquid part that separates from the butter, and that's exactly where the nicotinic acid is found. So think about how you can use it in food so that the nutrient doesn't go to waste. The next point, which people have asked me to talk about in a video, I've already mentioned this before, side effects of high doses of nicotinic acid. Cherkis was a scientist and vitaminologist who investigated all of this 100 years ago. His publications, dating back to around 1929, state that high doses of nicotinic acid can lead to fatty liver, hepatic steatosis, because of the way it is eliminated from the body. A person loses a certain chemical group in the process. But how can this be compensated for? A person should eat cottage cheese. We're talking about very high doses of nicotinic acid, around 600 milligrams. And in some sources, it is indicated that this should be administered intravenously. Or, it's difficult to do it intramuscularly, so intravenously, in other words, not orally. Therefore, now listen closely, my friends. All injections are completely and totally a medical procedure. Only a doctor, as part of a treatment plan, prescribes injections. Whenever we discuss the topic of nutrient intake, we typically refer to consuming them exclusively through oral ingestion. Someone wrote to me saying that in their country, only ampules are sold. I don't know if it's possible to drink ampules. The thing is, when you open them, glass can get inside. It's just for that reason. But in any case, right now we are only talking about taking nicotinic acid orally, and also about which nutrients contain nicotinic acid. So, well, if you have any concerns at all, for heaven's sake, you can just eat a certain amount of cottage cheese every day and you won't have any problems. But I repeat once again, we're talking about very high doses of nicotinic acid for a long time, not just once, but for months, somewhere around 600 milligrams. So that's really a lot. Therefore, please be aware of this and know how to prevent it. A deficiency of nicotinic acid in yourself and your children. And also my big wish is this: go into pregnancy without deficiencies. This will save you a huge amount of nerves and money, and it will allow you to give birth to a healthy child. And it will provide your child with the right start in life at the right pace. When a newborn's body, a newborn person, has enough nutrients for growth and development. I wish you good health, all the best, and goodbye.